Hi there, I'm Tara with the Hobby Lobby Creative Studio. Have you ever wanted to make your own jewelry but weren't sure how to get started? Well, you're in luck because today, in our Jewelry 101 video series, I'm going to help you get started by showing you some of the basic techniques used in jewelry making. Stay tuned to learn how to use 5 different styles of cord ends. Cord ends come in handy when making jewelry out of cord, leather, or ribbon. Instead of tying a knot to finish out your piece, you can use a cord end to hold everything together. They can then be attached to a clasp or other connector. Cord ends come in a variety of sizes and styles, so be sure to choose the one that is appropriate for the cord you're using. Here are all the materials I'll be using for the examples in today's video. A variety of cords, leather, and ribbon, 11mm fold-over cord crimps, 1mm end springs, 2.5 by 8mm open-end cord crimps, 8mm ribbon crimps, extra-large cord crimps, mighty crimpers, chain nose pliers, nylon jaw pliers, and E6000 adhesive. Let's get started with the basic fold-over style cord crimp. This type of cord crimp has 2 side flaps that fold inward over the cord. It can be used with both round or flat cording material and can be used on one single cord, like I'm doing here, or on multiple smaller cords. Cord ends are typically pretty secure, but just to make sure they are going to provide a permanent hold, I like to place a tiny dot of glue inside the cord crimp. Don't overdo it on the glue. You don't want it to ooze out and make a mess of your cord. Now, lay your cord in the cord crimp with the loop facing out. I'm using a 3mm braided cord. Position the cord so it goes all the way up in between the flaps. You want the ends of the cord to be hidden inside the folded area, but you need enough cord inside for the flaps to really grab onto. My favorite pliers for attaching this type of cord end are mighty crimpers, but you can easily substitute chain nose or nylon jaw pliers instead. Using the front notch on the crimpers, gently squeeze to fold one of the flaps inward. Switch to the other side of the crimp and squeeze again to fold the second flap down, overlapping the first one. Now, using only the front notch on the pliers, refine the shape by rotating the crimp and squeezing in the notch of the pliers several times. This will tighten the cord crimp while giving it a clean, round shape. Now, gently pull on the cord to ensure you've captured it tightly between the flaps of the cord crimp. Now let's move on to an end spring. This cute little spring-style cord end is great for smaller round cords. I'll be using it with a 1.5mm round leather cord. Start out by putting a tiny dab of glue on the very end of the cord. Now, slide the cord all the way inside the spring. Next, using your mighty crimpers, gently squeeze the first coil on the spring so that it crimps down onto the cord. You could also use chain nose pliers to do this, but I find the mighty crimpers make it a bit easier. Give a little tug on the cord to make sure it's not going anywhere, and you're done. Next up is an open-end cord crimp. This one is also good for small, round cording material. With this type of cord crimp, you've got 2 choices, to crimp or not to crimp. You'll begin this one by putting a tiny dab of glue on the end of the cord and placing it all the way inside the cord crimp. I'm using another 1.5mm leather cord for this example. If the cord fits pretty snug inside the cord crimp like this one does, all you need to do is let the glue dry. If the cord fits a little loose, or if you just prefer to do so, you can crimp the end onto the cord. I prefer to crimp at the very end of the tube closest to the cord. Using the back notch of your mighty crimpers this time, squeeze down on the crimp, securing it to the cord. Give a little tug on the cord to check it out, and you're good to go. Now I'll show you what to use if you're using ribbon or other flat cording material, a ribbon crimp. The basic rule for this type of cord end is to put the end of the ribbon in and squeeze it shut. But here's a few tips for certain types of ribbon. If you're using a very flat, thin ribbon, like this 7mm rayon, I recommend adding a dot of glue to the inside of the ribbon crimp, then folding the end of the ribbon a few times to make a thicker section at the end for the crimp to grab onto. Put the folded end into the ribbon crimp with glue, then, using a pair of nylon jaw pliers, squeeze down on the crimp. This should get a pretty good hold on the ribbon, but go ahead and squeeze a few more times just to make sure it's holding on as tight as possible. If you're using a ribbon that is wider than the ribbon crimp, like this 10mm burlap ribbon, you can fold the ribbon so it doesn't hang over the edges of the cord end. I like to fold in a little from both sides until the width of the folded area is the same or slightly smaller than the width of the ribbon crimp. While holding the folded edges in place, position the ribbon crimp with glue over the folded ribbon. Make sure the ribbon is far enough into the crimp that it can grab on and hold nicely. Now, use your nylon jaw pliers to squeeze the crimp down onto the ribbon, and that's it. If you're using thicker leather or cording materials, extra large cord crimps are what you need. These cord ends can expand a little further, allowing you to use more strands or thicker materials than the other styles we've talked about. These extra large cord crimps have an upper flap that folds down over the cord and side flaps that fold inward around both the cord and the upper flap, holding it all in place. First, place a tiny dot of glue on the middle of the lower section and on the upper flap of the cord end. Remember, a little glue goes a long way. Next, place your cord material in the middle of the lower section between the two side flaps. I'm using 3 pieces of 3/16" deerskin lace. Use your fingers to fold the upper flap down and over the cord. Now, use your chain nose pliers to hold firmly along the very center of the upper flap. Using nylon jaw pliers in your other hand, fold one of the side flaps over. It should bend and wrap around the upper flap, holding it in place. Reposition so you can again use your nylon jaw pliers to bend the other side flap inward. Now that both side flaps are bent inward, refine the overall shape by gently squeezing side to side until you're happy with the way it looks. If your cording was thick like the deerskin I was using, you may want to squeeze at the top where the hole is to flatten that area a bit more. Give a little tug to make sure everything is holding tightly and you're all done. Well, that's it for cord ends. You may find other styles available out there, but they all work pretty similarly to the 5 styles we covered today. Now be sure to check out our other Jewelry 101 tutorials to learn even more basic techniques that'll take you from beginner to pro in no time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.